Hi, this is Gary Goodwin, founder of The Stuck Creative, and welcome. This is the place to come for tips, tools, and techniques for getting unstuck, staying unstuck, and getting your projects done at last. Today we review Jeff Tweedy's How to Write One Song. Now stop. If you're not a songwriter, don't turn this off, don't run away, because what Tweedy is going to tell us is pertinent to any creative at any level. Jeff Tweedy's with the band Wilco, a band that was not familiar to me, but maybe to you. It was an Emmy Award winner from a couple years ago. He's been with the band performing, so albums with the band as well as separate from them. He resides in Chicago. This book is like a travel outline. It's not like a map you would use for traveling. It's not like a detailed guidebook that you'd be using. It's more of an outline. There are important differences between these forms of travel information. The outline is going to call out the top 5 things you should see and probably put them in priority order, whereas a travel guide is going to have more details about what you're going to see or what each of the landmarks or the things you need to see, what they're about, a little bit about the history. A map's going to lay out the course of how to get there. An outline gives you the list with a little bit of information where it's at, a little bit of information about why it's important, but not much more than that. Tweedy gives us an outline, and an important outline that I don't see offered really anywhere else, except maybe here at the Stuck Creative. Tweedy boils down not only his experience of being on the road and being in music and other forms of creativity. He boils that down, not just that insight, but he has a special talent for self-examination and also paying attention to the experience of creativity, the experience of being a productive creative. In his outline, there are going to be some things that we're familiar with, things that we're going to expect. However, the majority of the book concentrates on things that most people have not seen or have barely seen, and what I call invisible landmarks. They are visible to those who have prepared themselves through hard work and hard work over time, but also through what Tweedy has brought to it, self-examination and observation of creativity itself. Tweedy makes it very clear what he considers to be invisible landmark number 1. This comes from the first paragraph of his first page. Songs are mysterious. Any idea where they come from? I've written tons and tons of songs, and still, the best I can think to say after I finish one I'm happy with is, how did I do that? It's confusing when you can do something and not know exactly how you did it, and then somehow expect to do it again. I think that's why so much mysticism gets attached to songwriting when people try to talk about it. You hear things like, I'm just a conduit, and the universe wanted me to have this song. Whatever you say, man, I'm pretty sure it's still me doing the work. Some partnership between my conscious mind and my subconscious gets results. But when things are going right, the distinctions between the two become blurry, and I'm never really sure which is in charge. Tweedy goes on to tell us that we can see the mystery and we can partake in the mystery for optimal songwriting or whatever we do, but we're only going to be able to do this after a long time of working, of having typical concerns, out of our own self-identity, which is what do I do next? What do I need to learn? How good am I? Who do I need to contact? How do I put this all together? The I question and the concern about self-identity gets to a place it sort of smooths out, or we've answered many of the questions, or we do know what to do next. And then in that gap, in that quietness, then the mystery becomes apparent. If we can see this landmark, and if we can open to it and work with it, then Tweedy tells us it will be a source of deep inspiration. It also will be a source of energy. It will be a source of comfort during difficult times, because we know it's real. We know it is of high value. We know it comes from the essential activities of working away. So this will keep us on the path if we want to enjoy and be inspired by the mystery. Tweedy's clear in his writing, and I think he's clear in who he is. He's a very practical sort of person. He's a person who stays in the present. So one of the things for the invisible landmarks is understanding how to stay in the present and not get too far ahead of ourselves. He writes about, and this also gets to the title of his book, when people say, well, how do you teach people to do songwriting? He says, I have a feeling that part of the problem is the enormity of teaching someone how to write songs, plural. Instead, I believe that the only way to teach someone to write songs would be through teaching them how to give themselves permission to write one song. To teach them how to teach themselves, starting with one song. I think his point is someone asks, well, what are you doing? And you say, well, I'm working on one song, which is an analogy for I'm not trying to be a songwriter. I'm not trying to do even be a creative. What I'm doing is bringing my full attention, and I'm immersing myself into the basis of what I want to do. In this case, and it could be writing, could be photography, whatever, but in this case, it's songwriting. I'm simply sitting and working on one song, and he emphasizes working daily. I'm immersing myself in that, and I trust the process. If I stick to that, I learn, I get better, and things open up to me, and I see invisible landscapes that will feed me in many different ways. The third and last landmark I can cover, and there are others in his book, is the one he calls disappearing. Back to the concept of writing one song, he says, no one writes songs plural. They write one song and then another. And it's also a reminder of what you really want, or what I think you should really want, which is to disappear, to watch your concept of time evaporate, to live at least once inside a moment when you aren't trying to do anything or be anything anymore. To spend time in a place where you just are. Disappearing is about getting out of the way. Getting out of the way so there's more room for the mystery to enter, whatever we're doing. Tweedy tells us, so that's why I surrender to process, why I so regularly employ the mental tricks that I'm going to talk about later in the book, the tricks that get me in the right frame of mind to create. It makes it easier to have moments of truth and recognition, and it gets my ego out of the way. And getting my ego out of the way makes it easier to listen to myself with some objectivity, to hear myself almost as a different person would. So if you can give yourself over to a process and get comfortable with disappearing, you're likely to harvest some hard-to-find truth along the way, both about yourself and about what you're trying to say. Don't worry about your ego. You'll be fine taking the back seat for a while. Trust me, it's never gone for long. You'll be there to help figure out what to do with whatever you make, take credit for the parts people love, make excuses for any shortcomings, decide what font and point size to use on the poster, and so forth. In the end, learning how to disappear is the best way I've found to make my true self visible to myself and to others. For beginners, certainly read the book from beginning to end. But what is important for beginners is to read the book once a year, because it is a list of landmarks that are invisible in the beginning, but might become increasingly visible as you move forward with your experience. So I would keep it on the shelf, or I put on my calendar actually, that every January 1st or whenever I would read the book every year until I felt that I knew everything in that book, not just know it, but that I've actually experienced it, and what I'm finding is confirmation of my experiences. That would have been very helpful in the beginning for me, to have this wonderful resource of what to look for as I move along. Intermediate creatives, those who have put large amount of time into their craft and into working and have the capability of self-awareness, I would read the book from beginning to end now, but I would put on the calendar every 6 months, get the book out, because you're partially seeing some of the things that he's talking about. And by keeping this in your awareness, you'll be on the lookout for the other pieces that you can't see of these important landmarks, if you remember what's in his book and if you remember to be on the lookout. I really hope you do get the Tweedy book. It's worth the money. If you have the time, I would get the audio book, as I think I mentioned that earlier, because it'd be truly like having him in the room talking to you, because he does the narration of the book himself. So that's it for today. If you need more tips, tools, and techniques about getting unstuck, staying unstuck, and getting your projects done at last, please come on over to thestuckcreative.com. This is Gary Goodwin, founder of The Stuck Creative, and I will see you next time.